lot of stuff to review. So let's see. Do we have quorum? Do we have enough people here? I think it'd be useful to look at all the current Rocketeers and see if that's still the case with the new quarter.
I'm looking at it now, and let's see here.
I think we're missing Balak. Is Luffy on a project now?
Is the Treasury Transparency still running?
No, I think that project has ended. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the only project he would have been a Rocketeer on.
Did you submit a proposal for that?
Yeah, I
Or
don't
a report for that?
don't remember.
Or no, that was last quarter that he submitted that. So that's a long time ago. Pretty sure. It's quarter one. He submitted Treasury Transparency. Pretty sure. Okay. Well then, it's missing Balak and Ari can't make these meetings anymore. So I think that we should, like he hasn't been here for over a month. So yeah, I think we should remove him as a Rocketeer. Yeah, he's currently on I believe the Zero G and Life Ship, and yeah, I haven't seen him at either of those for a while as well. Um, so yeah, I think if we if we're accounting for that change with Ari and if Luffy's no longer a Rocketeer on projects, then in total we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Rocketeers at the moment.
And is I think Luffy still Moon Settler even? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter for this conversation.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of any projects that he's on. So then we have yeah, I think the only person that we're missing right now is Balak then. I think we have everyone else. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in total as Rocketeers currently. So I think we have Balak, who is leading the translation project. Lucas, um, Lucas, or well, actually, I'm not actually sure. Lucas, what project are you a Rocketeer on right now? Oh, the partnership project, of course. Sorry, and Manuel as well with partnerships. Um,
I'm on the Video Bounty.
Mitch is on Video Bounties. Colin is on the app expansion, and then yeah, I'm on various ongoing projects right now. Okay. So I guess yeah, that's the 6 right there. Yeah, it's it's thinned out quite a bit from one quarter to the next. So yeah.
Well, I think hopefully we can get more Rocketeers in soon this
Yeah.
upcoming quarter.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll see more projects coming through. Um but yeah, okay. So all right, then I guess we have quorum then with 5 out of 6 Rocketeers. So yeah, let's keep going. Sorry about that. Just needed to do a quick role cleanup, especially yeah, with the new quarter. So yeah, let's look at the agenda here. The first thing on the agenda is the final review of the Q2 payments for execution. I won't bore you guys too much with this, but yeah, I guess I'll share my screen here so we can just look at the some of the final numbers if people haven't looked at them yet, and just generally, uh, yeah, make people aware that we will be executing on these tomorrow. Lucas, Colin, and myself will be handling the vMooney transactions, and then we'll be putting in the final transactions for the treasury. I'll yeah hope I'll I'll definitely be a bit of yeah a little bit annoying with some of the other treasury signers to make sure that they sign it in a timely way. Hopefully we can get that all signed and ready to go in the next few days. But yeah, so I also just want to maybe run through some of the methods real quick so people know how to review this. But yeah, I also want to say thank you to Ryan who caught not only a mistake in this sheet but also in the previous Q1 sheet with the total V Mooney, where we were actually taking the percent and then multiplying it by this number rather than the decreasing numbers. So it's a good thing that with Q1 payments, those haven't been the V Mooney ones haven't been executed on yet. So um, yeah, that's been fixed in the previous sheet as well. So yeah, just to quickly run through this, I won't take more than 2 minutes here. I hope all of the coordinates have been plugged in. So uh, yeah, I guess for your project, make sure that the numbers match. The only change recently actually has been so now with projects before, we're giving 2% over to the delegate and 1% over to the signers. We only had one project that was done under that new V4 system, which was the stewardship. Um, but I think in the transition period, that stewardship proposal came in right as we were passing the V4. I don't think it had the three signers, or I didn't see that on the proposal itself, but it did have Ryan as a delegate. So we've added his 2% here and then reduced the coordinate numbers by a factor of 0.98 to make room for that. So that's the only maybe gotcha on the coordinate numbers. Um, yeah, the voter results here are I mean, we've already, so I'll go one by one. The MVPs are collected here for each of the projects, so make sure that your MVPs are correct and accounted for. This is for the non-Mooney assets. If an MVP was in ETH, then it's just converted based off of the price of ETH at the end of the quarter. Um, yeah, Mooney is here as well. Voter results. So this is taken directly from Snapshot. This is the CSV that gets popped out. The only change is that each of the choices are calculated as a percent. So actually, when you export it from Snapshot, these come in as raw numbers. So some people will vote, 1 for choice 3, or maybe they'll put in 10 for choice 3. It doesn't really matter because we're calculating it based off of the voting power that goes to each choice. So that's basically like we're just taking the total. Like for example, this person voted like 1 to this cell, 1 to that cell, 1, and so on, 2 for this one, and so then you just take you basically just calculate the percentage that goes to each. I'm going. This sounds complicated, but it's what is displayed on Snapshot basically. If you look at each of these voters, you'll see like 100% went to RD3. It's just when you export it from Snapshot, it's like raw numbers. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, and then the voting power is here. The square root of the voting power is calculated, so quadratic voting. And then you basically look at, given that person's voting power, how much did they allocate to each distribution? And that's the numbers that are displayed down here. So it's basically taking the amount that was allocated to this. So like looking at the percent that was allocated to each project, and then multiplying that by the voting power, the quadratic voting power that each member has, and that's the number that's displayed here, and that is basically the amount of voting power that is going to each distribution. And then the final step is so taking each distribution, looking at the amount of voting power that went to that distribution, as shown here, and then calculating the amount that goes to each project. So that's the final number here. So that's basically taking, you can see the calculation here. It's taking uh, the amount of vote that went to that distribution multiplied by the amount that went to that project, and then summing all of those. And that gives you the total that goes to that project. Yeah. In the future, I hope that we just have a nice Python script that runs this, and the code can be made available, and people can check the code and methods. But yeah, that's basically it. We've already gone through the Rocketeer calculation, so I won't go through that again. But yeah, that's the full summary of the methods. Just wanted to make sure that that was explained here, so people gain an intuition for like how these numbers are calculated. But I think that pretty much everyone on this call has looked at this already. So yeah. Um, any questions or comments or thoughts on this? I see that Lucas is unmuted, but I can't hear him. I don't know if that's just a problem on my end.
I can't hear him either.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if he's talking, but if there are no questions, then I will move forward. So yeah, we'll start executing on this. Yeah. So maybe give it one last review if you're feeling. Yeah, it's just your last chance to review it until we execute. So cool. Um, I'll move over to the next thing, which is a discussion about the second astronaut selection. So this is a relatively fresh, posted in ideation, but I kind of wanted to do a little bit of more synchronous discussion about this since it's going to be a big one, and I mostly just want to make people aware of this and get good feedback on this before it goes forward as a proposal. So I finally was able to hear back from the sweepstakes lawyers that we worked with, and they basically just said that we need to reselect from the same batch of NFTs. So that's what we're going to be doing. They said if we were to change the selection criteria or do something like that, that would expose us to a lot of risk. Um, and yeah, I think that the right thing to do here is to just continue selecting from the Ticket to Space NFTs. Um, but the catch here is that uh, so with the Ticket to Space NFTs, the method that we use to basically register the NFTs and make sure that there's only one person, like one NFT per person, and that the person isn't like reselling the Blue Origin ticket or something like that. We used identity, a third party identity service called Verisol, um, and what that basically entailed is that people took an image, or they sort of recorded a quick video on an app where they and they had to hold up an ID as well, and then it would make sure that all matches. But what we said in the privacy statement around that is that we're going to be deleting all of this information after we do the selection, which we did. So now we need another method of basically ensuring that people aren't gaming the system with the NFTs, and that people are, yeah, basically that we're Sybil resistant. So uh, I think that this new selection is going to be a big opportunity for us to revitalize a lot of the DAO. And so I think that an interesting method of basically doing this sort of Sybil resistance is to ask them to go through our onboarding process, which includes basically getting a Gitcoin passport, becoming a real community member inside of the DAO. And then once you are a community member inside of the DAO, you've gone through all of the processes, then we'd ask them also to attend an onboarding meeting, turn on their camera, and then that would complete the sort of registration process. So um, there's actually a method that is used by I think the Proof of Humanity protocol. They basically throw people into a room, they ask them to turn on their camera, and they check for liveness and whether or not that's a real person. And they get kind of attestations from other people inside of the group that say, yeah, hey, this is a real person. Um, so this would be like our method of doing that, where someone in the onboarding call would check and see, okay, this is a real person. They're here, and we'd basically just record that, hey, they've gone through our onboarding process, and yeah, I think that this is relatively high friction for, say, something like a bot farm to do. So I think it's a higher degree of protection than what we did before with the IDs, which at the end of the day was still gamed. There's still a ton of basically uh, shenanigans going on with people buying tons and tons of the NFTs, and registering them as different people, just basically buying other people's identities. Um, so yeah, I think this would be a really solid incentive for people to onboard into our community. And yeah, I think that there's going to be a decent amount of operations that are involved with this too. So selecting a new astronaut isn't just like running the selection contract again. I think that we should basically run a more high touch onboarding process, where we have maybe a daily onboarding meeting, so that people who want to register with the Ticket to Space NFT have a chance to join our DAO, say hello, etc. Um, we could run this for a month-long period, so a lot longer than what we did previously. So this would give a lot more opportunity for us to get the word out and for people to join Moondao, to have a chance to go to space. And yeah, uh, yeah. So there's a decent amount of operations with all of that, and so we'll need like a solid team uh, to help support this. I guess the good thing is that we've done this before. We've done this not only with the Blue Origin ticket, but now with Zero G too. We've run a selection process, so we know what we're doing and we know what we're getting into here. And yeah, um, so yeah, I think this is going to be pretty exciting. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to revitalize the DAO. And yeah, we'll need some more hands on deck with this. So, um, yeah. Any thoughts or questions? I know, yeah, I I definitely like for people to go in depth with the document, read it, and leave comments. But yeah, if there's anything that people want to bring up now, let's definitely chat about it. Um, yeah, so the way that we set up the NFTs is that there's a 5% creator reward. So um, yeah, that does benefit the DAO, which is good. Yeah.
Does that mean 5% of every sale of every NFT goes to the treasury?
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think this is gonna be a really solid opportunity.
How about So this, I'm so sorry that late for the meeting, Pablo. So we will go actually with that NFT again.
Yes.
Okay. You mean that the people need to do the KYC? So, so you mean that we need to? I think we used the very so last time.
Yeah, Balaka, I don't know when you joined, but yeah, I went through all of this. Maybe it's best to check it out on the recording because
Okay.
yeah, I went through. It's kind of long to get into the, but yeah, it's also in the document. So um yeah, and then once we have this, once we have this done as a proposal, then we should translate this and send it over to people in the CN community as well.
Okay.
Cool. Um, any other thoughts or questions about this? All right. Then we can keep moving forward in the agenda. So the next thing is the executive branch proposal. So oh, sorry, you guys have to. Oh man, so many tabs here open. Okay. So I will keep going with my my monologue here. So executive branch proposal V3. This has been in discussion for a long time, so I'm just gonna focus on the changes here. So a lot of the changes are around the cost of the proposal and how we're basically structuring this proposal and its incentives. So um, yeah, across the board, all of these MVPs have been reduced. So the full-time operations lead has been reduced from 5K to 3K. The part-time legal lead that's stayed at 2K a month, but the 10K. So the original quote that I got was 2K a month in sort of retainer, and then 10K just to basically review all of the work that needs to be done right now at Moondao. But that quote was received a while back, and a lot of that work has since then been more or less completed. So I don't think that 10K is necessary. And there's still this 2K a month in sort of ad hoc, you know, basically like work that might need to be done that we just don't know about yet. The communications lead, which is really kind of like a lead storyteller, that's also been reduced from 3K to 2K, and the astronaut MVP reduced from 8K to 5K. So yeah, it's a pretty significant reduction in the amount of MVPs. And uh, yeah, with this reduction, the way that we're basically structuring this is that the executive branch will not be a proposal or will not be a project. Sorry, so this won't be receiving retroactive rewards. This will exist outside of the retroactive rewards system, and these MVPs won't be subtracted as MVPs for projects are. So basically, the executive branch will run separate from the project system, but members of the executive branch can also take part in projects and get rewarded through the project system, contributing to those projects. So um, yeah, so that's the most significant change in terms of the system. And then there are also changes here in basically measuring the reward incentives around treasury growth. So previously, this was basically one bucket of like treasury growth, and um, after discussing with all of y'all, the idea was changed to basically separate this out into two independent buckets. One bucket that looks at overall treasury growth, and another bucket that looks at basically project revenue. And yeah, there's some good feedback about how we're measuring this. Basically, there is potentially overlap between the 1% growth and the 5% reward. Um, I believe that this is like a relatively straightforward way of like accounting for both overall health of the treasury and growth of the treasury, and overall basically income, uh, and so income, I want to be specific too. That is revenue minus the total costs per project. So the incentive here is really to reduce costs and make sure that we're running the project system in a sustainable way. So it's basically a check and balance on maybe runaway costs that might occur otherwise, uh, by having the executive branch be incentivized to look after sort of the revenue versus costs on a per project basis. And it's important that it's on a per project basis versus on a quarterly basis. So doing this on a per project basis means that we're independently assessing basically like a project on its revenue capability, and not getting, so not sort of like mixing it up all into one thing where the total costs and total revenue might vary a lot quarter to quarter. Maybe one quarter we spend a lot, and then another quarter we reap rewards on those projects, but the accounting on that is sort of mismatched. Um, yeah. Another thing to note too with the 1% reward is that, yeah, it does include like non-Mooney assets. So basically DAI, ETH, other tokens. And I think, it the astronaut doesn't necessarily, like, it's not like the astronaut is doing a better job if the price of ETH goes up. However, I think that this is like an overall metric that is just saying treasury growth is good and we need someone to look after it. And so it looks at, in a holistic way, the basically the risk of the overall portfolio of the treasury, and whether or not uh, it is, trending in a healthy state or not. And yeah, uh, we could, for example, say make this just non-Mooney assets or versus Mooney assets, and do sort of like different incentives based off of like say Mooney growth, or overall stables growth, or what have you. But the thing that I worry about specifically is that if we start to kind of like try to come up with these contrived, like very specific incentive mechanisms that look at this specific thing, that specific thing, and then we have all of these complicated calculations. I think that that ends up with more complexity, which reduces transparency, and then will probably lead to more headaches. If the, I think that in general, we just want to keep things simple, and I think that having just simple, like incentives that are comprehensible to the broader community, and that look at things in sort of a big picture way, rather than trying to maybe account for very specific circumstances that ended up maybe blowing up in our faces. um, I think it is a decent strategy. um, yeah, the the specifics. So I mean, even this, like, said in a simple sentence, has its own complexity under the hood. And so uh, here is like a much more precise way of saying what is in B, and also a much more precise way of saying what is in C. So B calculates the quarterly treasury growth measured in US dollar, where we basically take the average value of the treasury in the previous quarter and then compare it to the next quarter. So if the overall treasury has grown over that period of time, then we basically incentivize the Rocketeers. The downside of something like this is, like, say we have you know a quarters where it's all going down, and then one quarter where it goes up a bunch. I think incentives in general are very difficult, and like if we like I'm open to like maybe hearing ways that we can alleviate something like that, but also I don't want to get too caught up with haggling kind of over every single way that the thing is measured, because I think that also ends up in like, okay, well, we're waiting on this proposal to go through, and then this proposal impacts other proposals. We just kind of get stuck in a conversation loop. So I think like this was a decent enough method of calculating it. Is it perfect? No, but I think it gets to the underlying thing, which is that we want our treasury to grow, and we want to incentivize at least someone to like go, guys, we're going to grow the treasury. We're going to start making projects towards treasury growth. We're going to make projects towards income growth and all that. For C, when it comes to income growth, this is going to be measured on a per project basis. So basically taking the total cost of the project, including the upfront payments, the MVPs, and the retroactive rewards, and subtracting that from the revenue from that project, and taking 5% of that difference as a reward. And then for income that isn't from a project, or say like there was a project that happened 3 months ago, but is an asset of the DAO that is continuing to make money, and that we can reinforce with other projects, all of that, that is simply taken at a 5% flat fee. So this is like basically trying to improve our like month to month revenue. So in some startups, there are names for all of these kinds of metrics, but yeah, like the amount of money that we're generating, basically more or less passively. So yeah, and then this is from another comment to clear things up. For both of these rewards, B and C, it'll take the form of the token that's being received. So rather than doing maybe complicated conversions from one token to another, if the revenue that we're receiving is in Mooney, and that then the 5% will be from Mooney. If it's in ETH, then it would be in ETH, and so on and so forth. And that's just to prevent us having to like constantly change our treasury from one token to another based off of its dollar value or something like that. So yeah, that was all a big mouthful, but yeah, I mean, I think yeah, we've gotten a lot of feedback to get to this point, and I think that it might not be totally perfect, but I think that we also shouldn't let sort of like perfect be the enemy of the good either. But yeah, if there are glaring flaws in sort of the calculation of these metrics, let's I'm open to delaying this, another week, but also we should keep in mind that yeah, a lot of things are kind of being held up by some of this larger conversation. And I hope, especially with the executive branch proposal going up, and the new stewardship proposal going up, and that being on an 8-month cycle, that we will go into kind of more of a seasonal governance type thing, where we have maybe every 8 months a high entropy month of like governance discussions, and discussing what went well, what didn't go well. But we'll have 7 months of more focus on improving the DAO and less on sort of the meta conversation of how the DAO functions. So yeah, that I know that was already a very very long pitch, but yeah, I want to hear your guys' feedback, and yeah, I'm overall pretty excited about the way that this is structured. I think that we've landed on a pretty solid system, and it's like I think fair in terms of like just uh, some amount of base that provides for security for the people that are dedicating their time towards the DAO, but then also includes incentives so that basically we have something to really fight for and make a big change, because ultimately I think that's what's going to be required to get to a positive result on both of these metrics, income and treasury growth. I think that it's going to be a lot of work. Both of these have trailed negative since the inception of the DAO, and yeah, I think that it's going to require basically a lot of love and devotion to get these to trend in a positive direction. So yeah, um, yeah, lot of talking there, but yeah, would like to hear you guys' thoughts.
Pablo, so as
Ryan, go ahead. Sorry,
Okay.
we'll get to you next, Pollock.
No problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, there's so many things that we could do with the treasury when it comes to, say, staking our ETH. Like low risk but small things that we could do to optimize the treasury growth in a more passive way that we're just not doing because like no one is incentivized to do. And yeah, I think like yeah, if ETH goes up in a massive bull run, yeah, that's not like the astronaut did that, but also hey, that's awesome. Like the treasury has grown a bunch, and it's like I think that there is some value in structuring the overall treasury to catch that tailwind, if something like that were to happen. And I think that you know we probably should diversify away from just ETH into maybe a couple other things too, just to make sure that we're doing that. Like the treasury diversification proposal didn't pass, and I think that that was pretty bad. I think it would be good to have, yeah, not only you know ETH but also stables, and I mean, yeah, like ultimately too, if there aren't enough stables, then that could put us in a very negative financial situation too. That means that the treasury doesn't grow. Yeah, I mean, and then when it comes to the double dipping between the treasury growth and the 5% of income, I think like I tried to think, okay, how do you separate these two? I think ultimately it's going to be a very small amount that overlaps between those two. So say, uh, yeah, like the treasury growth versus income, uh, the amount the changes that could be made from like a more just general like portfolio or like staking thing, like that, I think is going to be like very different than the amount that's coming in from income. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but it's like there there there's definitely correlation between the two. But yeah, I mean, I expect at least that the 5% of income paid out on a project basis, like we have yet to see any project meet that criteria. Like zero projects have. Lucas's project has gotten the closest, but even that, if you reduce the retroactive rewards, etc., uh, yeah, there hasn't been one project yet. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of what I said before. Like we shouldn't let perfect be the enemy of the good, and yeah, if I I'm open to hearing maybe other alternatives when it comes to measuring these two things, but I do think that these are the two things that should be measured. One, tracking towards revenue minus costs and reducing costs and making sure that we have more projects that are generating revenue. But then the other, like just the health of the treasury and making sure that okay, we're like people are incentivized to look after this thing. Yeah, but also like if we look at all of the like I think that we're looking at a particular scenario where say it goes up a ton and then goes back down and then goes back up a ton, goes back down, and it's timed exactly on those like quarters. Like I think that we might be focusing in on like one area of this where yeah, it's outside of the astronaut control, but overall the thing that is just that we're trying to measure is just overall treasury growth, and incentivize that. And I mean, if there is a better method of looking at overall treasury growth, then I'm down to hear it. But like I'm not like this is kind of where we're at, right? Like if like is there a better method that you can suggest? So you're saying okay. So just focus on only Mooney and not the non-Mooney assets. And then the rewards from the Mooney growth would be paid out in ETH or in DAI. I guess the incentive might be there to use up all of the ETH and DAI in order to increase the amount of Mooney or the Mooney price specifically, and not the sort of like overall like treasury. I don't know if that makes sense. And then also, if it's paid out in ETH and DAI, it kind of doubles on that too, where it's like there's no measure of looking at overall sort of like yeah, not non-money reserves. And then on top of that, it gets depleted if it's paid out, if the Mooney growth is paid out in ETH and DAI. Yeah, but I guess like that could, yeah, I think that could backfire, because if the Mooney price say like doubles, and then we're paying out a bunch of that in ETH, then it's like the Mooney price goes up at the expense of ETH in our treasury. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's kind of like why it's sampled over a 90-day period, to avoid uh, those sort of issues with like volatility in the short term. Um, I feel like a 90-day sampling period is like pretty solid in terms of like avoiding volatility.
Okay. I actually, yeah, Ryan actually asked my question. So it's also for me the 1% of charger growth was measured in US dollar, and to them, as Ryan said, ETH and also Mooney can go up and down, come down. So yeah, I don't know how to do this grow this treasury. And also I have a question behind this. The treasury growth, I mean that the Arsenal or with a team to bring this to treasury. If the ETH or DAI or ETH or Mooney just stay in treasury due to this now is, but now it's bullish market. If it goes to the bear market, then ETH and Mooney they go up directly to the price. So actually, if sorry, I say very frankly, if Arsenal don't do nothing, then ETH and Mooney maybe at least the ETH will go up the price. So, but the
Yep.
Arsenal can still get 1%.
But also, like we should realize that ETH is a small percent of our treasury compared to Mooney. So if Mooney is going down, and even if ETH goes up, like it's the overall treasury, like really the forcing function here, the biggest part of our treasury is the Mooney value. So that's going to be what this metric tracks more than anything. But the metric is more holistic in that it doesn't just look at the Mooney price; it just looks at the overall treasury health, which I think is more like important than just one token inside of the treasury.
Pablo,
That's my reasoning behind it, at least. Yeah.
okay. have you make maybe just a small calculation, and if the Mooney price goes up to maybe, I don't know, just make, for example, 30%, and maybe ETH all 20-30%, how many is 1% of this for you?
I honestly haven't done the math. Or like looked at scenarios like that. If Yeah, I mean, we could look at sort of what this would have looked like in sort of like a historical context at Moondao. Um, I mean, I think basically if we look at the overall historical context of quarter by quarter, uh, yeah, this would be pretty low. Um, in fact, I think both metrics would basically be zero after uh, there's a period between, I think, basically February to May, which barely spans the 90 days of quarter, where there was growth, and then after that there's none. So on the whole, yeah, on the whole. Yeah. Yeah, like really the forcing function here is going to be the price of Mooney, like compared to the other tokens, because our treasury is mostly Mooney. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now probably I know the behind. Thanks for this. I think it's reasonable. I think from my point of view, also 1%, 5%, and also 5% of income per project is a small, a very little overlap. But I think it's okay. Just this project basis is mean that for every project, for example, if one project, yeah, because Arsenal and now you is pretty busy if one project, for example, if without you, but it's have income like, and so it mean that also you will get the 5% of income, or it's just the project that Arsenal also attended.
Yeah, it would be for all projects. I mean, I think, yeah, again, this is more kind of like a holistic thing. Like there if there if there is a project that is within sort of the Moondao scope, even if the astronaut isn't directly involved, the astronaut is kind of providing the entire, like they're looking after the entire context of Moondao, to make that project like work. So I think it's again just like a more holistic thing rather than drilling down into any one particular project, or projects where the astronaut is like very involved. I mean, I think ultimately, the projects that do like create revenue will probably have some amount of like help from the astronauts. Like I said, we've never had a project that has met this criteria. So um yeah, I think it'll be uh yeah, they probably will be involved on that project anyways, but even if they're not, I think it's you know um it makes sense to just say, broadly speaking, for the projects. Yeah.
Okay, understand. I just made a quick calculation for the first one, maybe also for everyone here, because I don't make calculation. Until now, the ETH price around 1.1 million. We have entered the Mooney Yao treasury because here shows zero. And as I calculated roughly with the market price, we have 1.1 billion, and another price is 0.0006 around. And I mean that six 606,000 on US dollar in this way. It means then plus is it around 1.7 or 1.8 in totally and in our treasury. And yeah, then we know 1% and the growth, how to measure it. So I think for me, it's reasonable, Pablo. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks, Pollock. Thanks for doing the math on that. Yeah, it would be interesting to see all the historical values. Yeah, I'd expect that they would be pretty low for both of these. Yeah. I mean, for C it'd be 0, for 1, for B, there'd basically just, I think, be 1/4. Yeah, where that value was up. All right. Any other questions or thoughts about this or any other part of the proposal? I think it's also worth highlighting to the let's see, where is it? Yeah, this was added too. I should highlight it in yellow. It's basically like, can the executive branch be vetoed, be removed? And yes. So in the Constitution, there's basically a method of like how to remove astronauts. And so yeah, I think this is going to be the most important mechanism for the DAO to voice their dissatisfaction, say, with the leadership inside of the DAO. And yeah, I think this provides the sort of checks and balances between the community and the sort of executive branch, and the Senate too. I mean, the Senate also plays a role in sort of this like proposal going through to remove the leadership. So yeah.
Oh, sorry, Pablo, maybe I missed this, but I want to just confirm again, sure that maybe also coming from communities. So if the price of Muni and it goes up, so this 1% is still Muni or will be in US dollar? So I maybe just missed this part. I think you explained already.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's an important question. So for both of these rewards, it'll take the form of the token that is
Okay.
received or has increased. So like, we'd basically look at the proportion of, say, like Mooney increase versus ETH increase, etc. And so this would most likely then not be paid in the form of Mooney. And if it is Mooney, sorry, I actually think that this was included before, but if it is Mooney, it would be in the form of V Mooney that's locked. For 4 years. So that means that, you know, that Mooney wouldn't just be like unlocked. It would be there for voting. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. All right. Any other questions? If not, then I think this is ready to go for vote. I guess, yeah. Any other questions or thoughts about the proposal before we vote? Okay. Then I will post this right now in the Senate vote. Okay. It is there. I'll include the "have you voted" so that we know when people have put in their votes. Okay, I think we're just missing one person. We are missing. I see Michi, Manuel, me, Lucas, Balak. I think we're just missing Colin.
No, we got him now.
Oh, we got him? Okay. Cool, then let's close up the vote. Okay. All right, then this will go up to vote in the member house. Cool. Great. I guess we can move on to the next thing in the agenda, which is pulling it up. Sorry, the stewardship proposal. So I'll hand it over to Michi.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, the stewardship proposal has also seen a lot of changes, basically to make it more in line with what we've seen, like what Pablo has just demonstrated with the executive branch proposal. Give me 1 second here while I pull it up. I'm just going to close out a few extra tabs here. Okay, and share my screen. Great, you guys got my
Oh, I think we lost Michi.
Okay, some reason when I try to share my screen sometimes with Discord, it just restarts.
Can you check me? Can you hear Michi? I see he has some echo in his voice.
I can hear Michi, and I've also shared my screen here for you, Michi. I don't know if that's helpful, or we can stop sharing.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll stop sharing. I don't know what's going on, why it kicks me out when I try to do that. Okay, so basically, where do I start here? The aim of this proposal has really been to address the weak points in the previous proposal, which I feel was basically just a lack of accountability and overall direction on the proposal. And so the approach here has been to essentially handle what have been two competing priorities separately. We've been trying to combine engaging with contributors on projects with engaging with the members in community and trying to grow onboarding and doing a dual approach where we're onboarding the community into contributorship, and it just has been confused and not worked that well because for the most part the broader community isn't really interested in the details of contributorship. Uh, and so this is what we've presented here is a reframe where we're going to start calling the guild meetings office hours to clarify that they're essentially focused on contributors, on projects, just basically cross-pollination of ideas and, our internal operations. And I've outlined a loose strategy that I think could be used for engaging the broader community just through basically asynchronous posting of what I call engagement posts, which Pablo, if you can scroll down a bit, is like internal news, external news. What else is there right there? Polls, announcements, member recognition, contests, challenges, promotional events, community exercises, or documentation. So there needs to be 3 posts a week that fit in one of those categories. Which category it fits in would be up to the steward and their particular and the interests of the guild. But this is something that I feel like we've been really missing out on. Is this type of asynchronous communication? Communication of information and engagement. And we have a much cleaner metric for that. Overall, that's basically been the main focus of this project, is to get much clearer metrics so that we have a black and white definition of success and we can intervene if the stewards aren't meeting that standard. That leads into, I guess, the next big change about this proposal, which is the MVP and the way that compensation is being handled. So again, like the executive branch proposal, we'll be giving stewards a MVP, and that MVP won't be subtracted from their retroactive distribution, but also stewardship won't be considered for a retroactive distribution. So they'll have to make that MVP through additional projects. We reduced, because of that, we reduced the MVP that I had before from 3,000 DAI a month to 2,000 DAI. It's personally, I feel like that it's difficult to land because in being bank, some of our stewards really over delivered and some of them have delivered. And so it's hard picking enough, doesn't undervalue the over deliverers and overvalue the under deliverers. And I guess that's also part of the reason why I've been so stringent with this in defining the metrics. However, like Pablo and I were doing the math on this earlier, we think it would probably be about a 15-hour a week commitment, which 2,000 DAI, that's pretty generous. And part of it is that part of the struggle, just to be open about it, is that Colin does a lot of work that goes above and beyond regular stewardship. And I think that we're probably going to have to find a better way to compensate him for a lot of the maintenance and moderation outship. But I think that this part here in particular that Pablo's highlighted should cover basically just the minimum requirements. I think that Colin in particular does a lot more than what is being asked of this proposal specifically, and so we'll have to find another way to handle that. Another thing I want to note is that I'd written here before that stewards should have a budget of Mooney to work with to be distributed in the form of voting power for the purpose of designing engaging campaigns. And that's something that, I mean, has been in the back of my mind for a very long time now. I haven't really pushed hard on it in the past because it hasn't been as technically feasible, although it seems like now it's more of an option for us to pay in V-Mooney. However, I've taken that out of this proposal just to keep things much simpler and to not put too many demands on the stewards, because I was afraid that maybe I was creating much too high of a standard. But I still think that that is important, and but I want to see that handled within the scope of a totally different project, which would outline in advance the proposed usage of the V-Mooney distribution, just to make sure that we're not, you know, favoritizing anyone or overly centralizing power into, you know, into specific pockets. And yeah, but I think that could be big. Another thing that has been removed from this as well is a lot of the operations management and moderation things, and that's mostly because those metrics are competitive. And in the end, what I expect is that one or two people would probably end up doing like almost all the work, if just based on what we've seen in the past, how it works out. And so it's not really fair to same pay some people doing more work than others. But just that we've basically moved those responsibilities over into the executive branch. So that would either be part of the communication manager's job to do things like moderation and or the executive or the operations lead role for doing those types of things that don't neatly fit within guild, but are still important to the overall communication, you know, the overall onboarding process and things for the DAO. Let me bring up the proposal myself just to be sure I'm missing anything else really big here. We've also cut down on the metrics a lot. A lot of them were just basically merged into one, especially for the weekly office hours, where now the main metric for that is that a summarization of the meeting is posted within 24 hours. And that has a link to the recorded session, which should be done using StreamYard. A link to the agenda, which should be posted in notes and agenda, a link to the meeting notes, and a list of attendees. Again, all these things could basically just be posted in notes and agenda channel. And another thing is attendance at the weekly onboarding call. I put a note here that we could do it so that stewards who are unable to attend the weekly onboarding call can alternatively just host their own time onboarding call. Actually, one thing that should be here, weekly onboarding call attendance or one-on-one one call numbers, because I think that some stewards are, and some people also are just comfortable with one-on meetings, and that seems to be more effective for some stewards as well. The stewards will be required to create guild testing form for guild submission. So essentially just a list of questions that can make sure they actually have the chops to participate. So that's really just like a one and done thing. Maybe it could be updated over time if, we get results back and it's not exactly what we expect, we can change it, but it should be mostly just a one and done thing. I think a lot of these other metrics are pretty clear, pretty straightforward. But another big change is that we will be making sure that stewards have training for how to interact with GitHub and doing basic things like pull requests and using Markdown. I don't think it's that complicated to do, and we'll provide training on that. But I think that once we have that, it'll make organization of our documentation and things a lot easier, and also lessen the burden that gets put on Colin's shoulders in terms of updating our documentation. There's been plenty of times when I've had to go to Colin and ask him to update documentation, and I don't want to be doing that either. I think that we could be sharing that workload a lot better. The stewards will be responsible for just providing documentation about the common resources that have been outlined here as per each guild. And they'll be responsible for basically development of those core repositories as necessary. So for, the CRM or whatever, it could mean getting a repo for contacts and things like that. Another thing too is just weekly posting. I think that's pretty much a standard now. It should be a standard for everyone, but for stewards, it's definitely a metric that we're going to look at. And also issue response time. So just as things pop up, we want to see how quickly people are getting to them, and ideally they should be getting to them in less than 24 hours. The objectives and key results have been narrowed down a lot to basically just one main objective, which is to increase member quality, retention, and engagement. This is not specific to any one guild, though. These metrics that I've outlined, I think, will be the best metrics for determining the overall health of stewardship. I've put in a little bit more realistic expectations based on what we saw last quarter, and I've tweaked the metric a bit. Instead of using the Discord's default definition of activation rate and retention rate, we've made it so that activation, in our case, specifically means posting in the introduction channel, and retention is still the same idea. They come back the next week and either post in a guild or speak in a voice channel, but the difference is that they just need to do it first. Like the activation rate that it's based off of has changed. So retention is still basically the same based off of the week after activation. We still need 4 signers and a delegate for this proposal. Sorry, we need two signers. We have Lucas, so 2 signers and a delegate. And I believe those are all the big points here. So, another thing I do want to note, just one last thing, is that I ideally would like stewards to be elected by the guilds. I think it makes sense that the guild should be able to choose who leads them. It's going to impact them the most, and they probably are the most informed about who it should be. But also, guilds right now are small, and it's a huge concentration of power to allow only people, say, in the growth guild to vote on the growth guild steward. So what I've offered here instead is that we let the collective of all the Senate, the Moon Settlers, and the growth members vote on the whole of the election process. So basically every Moon Settler can vote on every steward, one steward from each guild that they want to be in the role. And yeah, the other difference is that there's only 4 stewards this time. We're limiting it one to each guild. So instead of having the 5 as we had before, it will ultimately be the responsibility also for all the metrics and things we're tracking. It'll ultimately be the responsibility of the astronaut to follow up on those things, but it'll probably be, I assume, delegated to the operations lead or whoever's in that role, assuming the executive branch goes through. So yeah, that's my monologue. I'll open the floor for questions. I mean, I think what this proposal is trying to do is really balance the 2 objectives of onboarding and growth versus contributor engagement. It's been hard because we've been trying to give stewards that one objective, and that's been the main, I feel like, point of frustration for stewards, is that the 2 things that we're telling them they should be doing don't mix together well. I think overall, the objective, though, like the outcome of their efforts, should be an increase in activation and an increase in retention, and just overall increase in quality of membership, meaning people with skill sets and that we need and the right values. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, for me, I think the main ambiguity of the last proposal was just that we had very uh, bad metrics. Like we didn't have good, clean metrics for this. I think, it's my belief that that will make a big difference. I obviously though can't, like, we haven't already put this into practice. I would honestly say that if this doesn't work, then we just throw guilds out completely. uh, we're trying a lot with this to incorporate the learnings from the last round, but I do hear your concerns. I'm just, you know, we're doing our best to kind of address those things, and it's a tricky problem to solve for sure. Yeah,
I
well,
haven't seen you at any of the Dev Guild meetings, so I don't know if you can really speak on that. Yeah.
Yeah, but to be fair, some of the meetings in guilds, some of our guild meetings don't go anywhere. But a lot of them have had great products come out of them. We've had like the app expansion project and the marketplace project. Those would not have happened if we weren't meeting regularly and really talking about the high level goals and objectives of the Dev Guild, the ways that we can maybe create more standards, the you know, there is still a lot of value that I think comes out of those meetings, and calling it office hours I don't think makes it more ambiguous. I think that it really just clears it up, because right now, yeah, maybe a guild meeting has like 4 or 5 people show up to it, and stewards have been putting a lot of this is this has put a lot of pressure on stewards, because we're telling them these meetings need to have more people. These meetings need to be a mechanism for growth and onboarding, and they're clearly not serving that purpose. They don't work that way because the people being onboarded don't care about the details of ongoing work. Yet, when we meet and discuss the details of ongoing work, we do solve significant challenges. We get a lot of coordination done. We cross pollinate ideas. And so I think that by calling it office hours, the idea is that we can relax a bit in those meetings and not worry about if the broader community cares at all. It's if there's only 5 people that show up, that's great, because we have a small team right now, and that means that most of the team is there, right? So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it is,
actually,
but
well, sorry, Minchie. I think that there is some amount of a square peg in a round hole going on with the guilds, and um, I think that we have been trying to use the guilds as a form of onboarding, where I think Ryan is right that it doesn't solve onboarding. Um, what I think the dream that we had at the beginning with guilds was, okay, it's going to be this sort of open-ended forum that anyone can jump into a live discussion and then get matched into projects. It would be kind of a stepping stone of for getting inside of a project. But then in practice, what it ended up being is no one knows that these guild meetings are going on. You know, if you're from the outside looking in, how do you know that like you're supposed to show up to this thing? There's no kind of like path towards the guilds. And then if when you do show up, you know, it's very high context discussion where maybe these people feel a little bit lost. Um, and yeah, I think that we have been using guilds probably in the wrong way. Um, because I think that we're like, and I'm looking right now at the objective and key results where say with like this part of the key result, the 5% increase in new members that successfully activate and like post and introductions. I think that you know it's difficult for guild stewards to control this, because the problem is really at a higher part of the stack or higher part of the funnel, which is our social media. Our social media, I think, is thing that tells the story that gets people to understand what's going on internally inside of Moondown. And it's sort of that top of the funnel when it comes to bringing people in and then getting them involved inside of Moondao. And I think that we've also been tinkering with that like that top of the funnel, and I think we're starting to get it right with Typefully and people being able to write directly into onto the Twitter. But ultimately, I think that it's really going to be the role within the executive branch of that storyteller role or communications lead role to really cultivate a strategy to start funneling people into the Discord. But then on top of that, I think that we need like a dedicated onboarding person, not like a distributed, four or five people, but like one person whose job it is to like run and like I think that what we've been doing with the onboarding meeting is good, but we need people coming in, and the people come in through social media. They hear about us, or they or connections that we make with other people, and we lead them into the right direction. But I think that we just need to solve a lot of those things higher up the stack.
I
And
want
yeah.
to note, Pablo, if you scroll up just a little bit,
Hmm.
there I've highlighted the line. So under this, engaging asynchronously and creating content with these 3 engagement posts per week, I've said that I expect the stewards to work closely with the social media manager of the executive branch proposal.
Hmm.
And that's what I think we've been missing in terms of the onboarding. Stewards don't don't reach out in that way. The approach has been just very passive,
Totally.
and so I think this is what I was my intent with this was to incentivize that outreach.
Sense.
Yeah, that would actually increase the onboarding.
And I think it's great that this engaging in asynchronously is becoming a part of the focus around the guilds, because I think that's also some of the issue, which is that we have these kind of just blips on the radar of like activity, but they happen within the guild meetings, and you know uh, that means that that person needs to be available at that time, that they just happen to be checking in on what's going on. I think it's tricky for people to know that's the place to go to, and engaging asynchronously, getting people, like in an asynchronous conversation around some of the things that are going on with guilds. If guild stewards posted in those guild channels every now and then saying, "Hey, these are the 4 projects where people are working on this, and on that." And actually, I just spoke to the guy that's leading this project, and they're saying that they need this help with XYZ thing. I think the guild steward should really be in this sort of context sharing role, where they're being this like interconnected tissue between people that are kind of stragglers that don't really have that aim, and then bringing them in. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think there's a clear demand here, but yeah, maybe with the metric around like 5% more introductions. Where is that? Sorry. I think that this maybe could be tweaked, because it's not. I don't think this is the right thing that guilds solve for. I think guilds really solve for um, yeah, I think like improving retention, but even that doesn't seem perfect either. I think it's really garden work. It's like ensuring that the community is healthy. It's like pulling out weeds, like when they pop up. Do good moderation, like being a filter for like cultivating a good solid group of people that are high quality, that engage, that know what they're talking about. um and all that. I mean, it's hard work, but when done well, I think it's very apparent. Like I think what Colin has done with the Dev Guild, for example, has been amazing. We have a solid group of developer contributors that show up and they're down to just have a conversation about, okay, well, what are the needs of Moondao right now? What's going on? And like Mitchie mentioned, a bunch of projects came out of those just sort of unstructured conversations where we're just meeting and talking about things. And yeah, sometimes it is kind of hard to extract clear metrics around that sort of thing, but I do think that it does provide value. But then when it goes in the opposite direction, and it then I think that it actually subtracts value when there's no agenda, when the meetings just drag on forever, when a person jumps in there that has that just kills the vibe. Like stuff like that where it's just, you know, um I think that's when guilds really start going wrong. And yeah, I think um yeah, like I see the clear value that good guilds bring, but yeah, and I think that we just need better accountability around some of this stuff too. But yeah.
Yeah, the Dev Guild has been the most on the ball in terms of keeping the meetings on time and also having an agenda, like a clear agenda for engagement. I think probably our Dev Guild has been the most successful guild.
Yeah. I really think that guild meetings should look more like a social event than a work meeting. I really I like what Dev Guild meeting is, but it is still really hard to keep new people around when they are not involved in a project, not involved in a Moondao context. And I feel that if you just make a better job at finding interesting topics to be discussed among those members that are relevant to Moondao, but not necessarily tied up within a project, we would have a lot more attendance, because at the end of the day, not everyone wants to be working for Moondao. A lot of people just want to network or to share ideas or to collaborate, more on the high level perspective, and not really on the on the ground. And in my opinion, that's what is preventing Moondao to grow at this moment, because we're just so focused on work that it's really boring for new people to join those meetings and listen to us. Really difficult for people to get involved because they have to digest a bunch of really complex documentation. So yeah, that's kind of the feeling that I have. Also, running the Brazilian meetings, I've been perceiving a lot of that. Basically, all the people there don't want to work for Moondao. They just want to talk about space and stuff like that, or talk about growth, or talk about whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I really feel that guilds should be much more than just working groups. Should be people that rely on similar areas, but are there for the vibe, not necessarily for the money or for the work, or and yeah, on that perspective, we have failed, consistently on our guilds, because it's exactly what Brian, said. We basically onboarded 0 people on the last quarter, to collaborate within projects, and the Senate right now is basically the same Senate that was last quarter.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying on that. I've said the same thing for a long time too. That, like, I've said it plenty of times before, that I wish guild meetings were more like our town halls, right? Then maybe there would be a better reason for the rest of the community to come into those meetings. But given like my experience with that, it doesn't seem feasible. it seems like the guild meetings, people talk at these guild meetings, people talk about work because that's what we all share in common. We're the people showing up to the meetings, and I feel like in a way it would be more beneficial to just give up on trying to get the broader community to engage with our working process because they don't care, and instead engage with them in some other way. That's where the asynchronous engagement and posting and working with the social media manager comes in. Because it's right now when we ask stewards to try to do that, to try to use the meetings to engage a broader community, they get really discouraged really quickly because we could set up an agenda like that, but I guarantee it would be weeks and weeks before anyone even notices that we've changed the agenda and that it's more broad and not about work. There'd be still just no one showing up. And that's the problem that has led to this feeling of aimlessness and discouragement amongst the stewards, is that they are trying to make a meeting that engages the whole community with a group of people who basically want to talk about work. And the work, we need to have some time to talk about the work that's, like we've said, is important. So I'm not trying to disagree with you. I hear your sentiment, but I'm just not as hopeful that we could turn the meetings around in that way.
I don't know. In the Space Engineer Guild meetings that were, that had a clear topic to go around, I felt that they worked, better than the other meetings that were just about work. But I get where you're coming from. I just think that the focus is not, the broader community. It's just us, basically, the people that are already here and the people that are coming and leaving. But yeah, I think there is a deeper problem because even our town halls are pretty, us. And so yeah, there's definitely a mistake there in broader communications. We don't give much attention, to the top of funnel. We don't really reward people that are, willing to work there. As we can see of the, the past tries of a social media project with MVPs and the Growth Guild itself. But yeah, at the same time, we are failing on, retaining people, because I see that Rod did a really awesome job, getting in touch with a bunch of different people for the Space Engineer Guild. And most of the time I see them attending one or two meetings, and then that's it, or they just come to a meeting to talk about their specific field, and that's it. I don't know how to solve it. I'm just, I'm also with Ryan here that I just don't want to have, 5 meetings a week with the same people, basically giving the same updates again and again. It's non-productive.
So I think the main problem for us is, so we can onboard new members, but then after a few meeting, they will just leave because they couldn't find anything to work with. So let's imagine like other Web2 company. First, you need to have a position or a job to do, and then you hire new members to onboard the company. But now what we are doing is we onboard new members, and then we have nothing for them to do. Then after a while, people just leave. So instead of trying to, onboarding new members without anything for them to do, we perhaps should focus on create more jobs, more opportunities, and people will come naturally or organically when they find benefits or a lot of incentive to join.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Luffy. Yeah, I also want to say too, guild attendance failure isn't uh, just a failure of, say, guild stewards. It's a holistic, like Moondao synt symptom that we're facing.
Yeah.
And we can't just pin it on someone and say, oh, this is your job, fix it. It really runs the whole gamut in terms of like uh growing our DAO. And that is something that I think, yeah, we've been getting better at. But I think, especially with the executive branch proposal, and some of these new changes that we're doing, where we'll have, just more focus on just, getting some of the core things right. Like, not posting on social media, that should be an easy thing to solve. And we should be, getting our story out there. And because we have a great story, we have, I think, one of the best stories out of any DAO that I know of, and I really mean that. But it's just, and the best mission too. I think we have the best mission out of any DAO. But yeah, we need to get that word out there, and we need to reach the right people, and then we need to engage them and get them into the community. And then then there's that handoff for guilds to shepherd them into projects. And yeah, I think you know like, to me, this stewardship 2.0, it fits into just a broader like restructuring that we're doing on a bunch of different levels of the DAO, that we've experimented with a bunch of different things. And I think, I hope that this is the one that we really get right. I feel like there were just elements of the DAO that were just missing. And I think also we've been in a period of a lot of just internal friction. We're yanking and tugging on each other in all kinds of different directions. And it's difficult to move in any direction when there's that much sort of friction going on. But I feel like we're moving past that, not just with like the broader community, but I also mean like within us as a group of individuals here sitting inside of the Senate. um, and so, yeah, like, I think that we're trending in the right direction. And I think that we shouldn't pin the stewardship as like a failure because it hasn't increased guild onboarding numbers. I think that symptom was caused just by a broader issue that we're facing as a DAO. So, yeah, I feel as though this step for stewardship is a strong step in the right direction. I think it's probably not going to be perfect, just like all of the other things that we do aren't perfect, but we iterate and we learn from the mistakes, and we try to get you know a little bit better each time. And I see a lot of good in this new proposal, and I think that we should um like, give it our best shot. And the people that are elected as stewards do a damn good job. And I mean that, because it's a really important job, and it's something that, like, uh we're just not doing well. you know we like and I don't mean that across the board. Like I mentioned, I think some stuff in the dev guild, like, that is really incredible, that we've been able to cultivate that sort of group and get those sort of projects running through and it's an example of like how good these guilds could be. But I think that we need to get there. So yeah, I'll stop monologuing there. But yeah, um yeah, I'll pass it back to you, Michi. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, I really don't have that much left to say about it. I think, I do hear the concerns that people have addressed here. Um, I hope that this can be the solution. but it's hard for me to say like to make any guarantees. Obviously, some factors are outside of our control, and yeah, I'm still. Well, I guess that's it. I guess I don't really have much else to say. Yeah, I had the same I had the same thought initially, but felt that maybe that would be really hard to communicate to the broader community, especially when it goes up to snapshot. That some proposals are having their MVP subtracted while others are not. It may like we all understand the reasoning. We're all very familiar with the quality and the ongoing nature of the work, but it may not be obvious to the broader community. And we were also concerned that the price would be a point of contention for the broader community as well. So we were looking for ways to justify lowering it. And do you think that the same approach should be had in the executive branch proposal? Right. I would like to hear what Pablo has to say about that in particular, because like this proposal I've made to basically be in line with the executive branch, and I can see an argument on both sides. Like I can see the reasoning behind both.
Yeah, I think it's worth maybe looking at some of the historical results when we added MVP. I mean, maybe we could boil it down to okay, people didn't really understand the system, and so uh, we had weird results. But for sure, and a way to game the system is when you're doing that is to, I mean, in both cases, a way to game the system is just try to get as high of an MVP as possible. But it's especially bad when it's a really high MVP, and then yeah, basically uh, they're also getting paid on top of that, and then people don't calculate, like when doing the retroactive rewards, they're not thinking of it. They have to somehow also keep in mind the amount of MVP that project has received, because then it affects the overall distribution. If that makes sense. So like say for example, there's project A, where all of the members on project A received a really high MVP, but it was also really high impact. But then when people are voting on which project to distribute to, they need to also keep in mind the amount of MVP that team has already received. Does that make sense? It starts like a weird system. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Well, I guess. Oh, sorry. I guess another major difference with this proposal than a regular project is that in a regular project, you like if things aren't really working out, there's not so much accountability in that. It's not like you're not getting paid a salary necessarily or something like that, and you could be removed from it. But in this case, with this new stewardship proposal, it's the job of the executive branch slash astronauts to ensure accountability. And yeah, I'm gonna I like I'm generally I think a nice person, but this is such an important job that if people are not meeting the expectations of what is written in this proposal, I will be very direct with that, and it will result in people getting removed out of that position if they don't show improvement after if they aren't meeting the expectations. And yeah, I mean that's maybe a little bit more corporate style, I guess, where like someone is actually managing and looking after the performance of your job. But I think that it's kind of doing a disservice to the DAO if one of these like really important roles just isn't getting done well. So I think that's probably the core difference, and why maybe this shouldn't be inside of the project system, is because there's now that stick. You know, uh, Usually we're all carrot, no stick, but this one will have a stick involved. I Yeah, but I think that the bar is set higher on this proposal now. So like, I will harp on people if they're not recording the sessions, putting an agenda in there, keeping meeting notes, keeping a list of attendees. If they're not showing up to the weekly onboarding calls, if they haven't developed some sort of skill test or method of determining whether or not the person has those skills that they're saying that they have. If they're not responding to guild onboarding, if they're not hitting just a very basic growth rate, if they're not writing these engagement posts, like all of these are pretty falsifiable. If they're not updating documentation, this is a relatively high bar that we're setting. And I feel like usually with projects we set goals, and then we say, okay, well, this is the goal, but if we don't achieve it, it's no big deal. These are the results at the end of the day. But in this case, this isn't a goal. This is a minimum. Like this is like you have to do this, and if you don't, like I'll be on your ass.
Do we
so
have to average one member per week then?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that is a
'Cause
decent metric to hit.
when
I don't know,
Michi
maybe
made this, he was saying that a lot of these are like, what we're aiming for, but now you're saying that this is required, so I'm just confused between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like like a lot of these I think are pretty straightforward to hit. Maybe this one is, maybe this one can be factored out into the OKR, maybe, where it's not so much because yeah, that, like I said, this is like it could be dependent on, say, coordinating with the social media lead and all that. But yeah, I don't want to set people up for failure or anything like that. But yeah, it's a good question. Maybe this one should be factored out. But I think the rest of them, I mean, I think it's all within the power of the guild steward to make sure that they show up to the meetings, that they record their meetings, have an agenda, have some sort of form or test, that they respond to onboarding, you know and like it's not like I'm gonna just like randomly boot someone. I'll go, hey, I noticed this thing isn't working, and we'll have a convo about it and figure out a way to improve it.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good question. How do we feel? I mean, do we think that one guild member per week is too high of a bar to set, or is that
In the past 3 months, 3 or 4 months, we've averaged at around 7 new, well, this isn't growth guild members, but we've averaged 7 new voters, fee Mooney holders per month. So I guess I'm sorry, maybe that's not a relevant metric.
I do think that with the new astronaut, I mean, yeah, see, like here's an example of it being a holistic issue rather than just individual guilds. Is that I think that now if we announced with the new ticket to space sweepstakes, and that you have to onboard into the community to get one of these, like that is a huge carrot for people to join the community. And I think that we're gonna see guild growth as a result of that too. So yeah, I mean, I think we should be able to. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe this is more like a metric to track rather than a minimum to hit, because a lot of these are like, it's not so much like this is fully within someone's control to like put together a summarization of the meeting, and pretty much all of these are like fully in control of the the guild steward can hit these. Like I'm certain that they can, but this one might be out of their hands a little bit. So I think it's worth putting this one in maybe the OKR or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. That should probably be down with the other key results
Mhm.
at the bottom. So yeah, if this goes up, I'll make that change. That will go down
Okay.
down at the bottom.
Sounds good.
Because yeah, it was intended that all the things there be within the steward's control.
Mm-hmm.
I can see just maybe this isn't a comment directly about this proposal, but I can see the reason in Brian's argument for treating for not subtracting NVPs that are small. And I think maybe that could apply to just projects in general. Again, I'm maybe just thinking out loud a bit here, but I think if we defined a thing like, you know, if you're getting an MVP that is under 2K or under 3K a month, then it's not subtracted. That sounds like that could be fair. And I can see how that would work out in the favor of, you know, some of our most dedicated members who often like I mean, we've seen a lot of people put in 0 MVP proposals, and I think that's great because it shows a lot of like commitment and faith in the DAO. But it is a prevent like it does create a lack of security, and maybe that is a disincentive for a lot of people, and why we, you know, part of the reason, maybe like not the whole reason, but maybe part of the reason why we have a drop in our Senate members and in the number of people leaving projects. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, yeah, it's a cool idea for sure. Um, yeah, I I think I it's hard to think on my feet with something like that and the implications downstream to like the system that we have. But yeah, I've thought about stuff like that before. Like maybe your MVP can only be as high as whatever you made like in the system the previous quarter, and that if you haven't made anything in the previous quarter, then and I've thought along those lines before. I mean, yeah, we did used to stream the Mooney, but now since we're doing lump sum with V Mooney, it was the Mooney that was the sort of like long term incentive to like continue. But we never, I at least hadn't considered streaming the die. That could be interesting as well. Need to kind of tinker on that a little bit in my head to see what all the other repercussions are, but yeah. Could be cool.
Yeah, I really like this idea. I think that, yeah, no MVP projects. Most of the time, the problem is not even, you know, the amount of responsibility or the amount of engagement of someone, but the focus itself. Because yeah, by the end of the day, a bunch of projects can be approved, you know, between those quarters that a project is active, and yeah, this could be a huge impact, you know, on that people pay. So yeah, and I speak for myself when I say this. When you don't have an MVP, there's just an incentive, to build that kind of not stability, but that kind of certainty in other, places. So I think that we need to, really think about the system and maybe revamp it a little bit in the future to make sure that, we retain people and that people can, deliver results along the way, and not only, run to meet those metrics or run to, do a killing final report on the, on the last weeks of the quarter. I think that that's also a problem.
Yeah, I guess in the context of this proposal, though, I mean, those sound like changes to the project system, which I'm down to tinker on, but I think that similar to maybe the executive branch proposal, yeah, we shouldn't let perfect be the enemy of the good either. I think this proposal is like pretty solid and gets us closer to where we need to be. And there is an expense to sort of spinning our wheels on it too long
I
as well.
specifically also was thinking with this proposal how much I did not want to spend time writing about it when it's done, because that was a huge sink of my time, like summing up that 20-page doc of all the things that went into the previous quarter. And in this one, it's black and white. It's either the performance was there or it wasn't. And then the metrics should speak for themselves. There shouldn't need to be much discussion. At least that's my hope.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with this being outside of the project system and yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the stewards that do go above and beyond, they probably will be creating projects to support their their stewardship. So like, for example, um say like I'm the dev guild steward, and I currently maintain the GitHub repo and review people's pull requests before they go into the code base. Well, actually, something that would be really solid would be like a testing suite to like improve like quality before it's submitted into the repo. Well, I could start a project to do basically write tests for the code, or like have maybe some moon settlers that support and write tests for the code. And yeah, that could be like a project that the steward oversees and then gets compensated for. So it's like they still have methods of like going above and beyond, and like setting up projects, and this way they're also incentivized to get a group of moon settlers together to work on a project, and they can help support them and get extra uh you know from the retroactive system afterwards. Yeah, so I think there's still that sort of carrot. It's just going to be in the form of like projects that are within the domain.
And like another project that could go hand in hand with stewardship is, like I was talking about earlier, the idea of creating an engagement program for the distribution of voting power. That's another thing that would be an extra project and would need people to manage those and actually like run and engage and follow up with those programs. So like we'd be posting things on Twitter, someone's gonna like be involved in all of it. And yeah, there's plenty of other things that I can think of that should be projects that stewards are totally capable of leading.
Yeah, All right. Well, we are 2.5 hours in. So yeah, how do we feel about putting this up for vote? Or are there more questions and thoughts about changes?
Yeah, if like a good amount of people here speak up and aren't comfortable for one reason or another with this proposal, then like I'm okay with it being another week. But I would really, I would like this to kind of go hand in hand with the executive branch. These projects are distinct, but the, they're they're kind of in a similar thread. I think it makes sense they go up together.
I'll be honest. I'm still a little concerned about the maintenance area. Totally hear the idea with the testing suite. The dev steward could just, um, yeah, create a project and create a testing suite. To make one that that works with every project and checks like that uh, the functions that they're calling are off of a smart contract we control or when we verified is correct. I just think there's cases where a dev's code could pass the test. It might work. It might be good code, but there might be something in there um, that we don't necessarily want in our organization. But yeah, I'm totally up for the dev steward making that testing suite. But just until then, there's going to also be some time where if we have somebody come in who wants to make their own project or contribute to a project, yeah, I guess some of it would fall on the project steward. But yeah, in the case where we have maybe a Rocketeer, a project steward who's a dev, who maybe we don't know super well, who's going to be reviewing their project code, and I'm not sure how that's all going to work.
Well, I guess it's also like an opportunity for dev stewards to like bring in new devs that hey, uh something that'd be really helpful for my job as dev steward would be more a testing suite or a staging environment or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a great like it would just be a project between the steward and then one other developer, like two other developers, and then the steward points them in the right directions, gives them advice, helps them get familiar with the code base, and then they can just start growing. So like it doesn't have to be extra work on the shoulders of the dev guild steward in terms of like a sit down opportunity for the dev guild steward to bring on new developers to help them.
Okay. What about when we want to add sites to Netlify or change environment variables? Would the dev steward be responsible for that, or
Yeah, I think that would fall under like support from the dev steward.
I don't really
uh,
see where it fits in because the monitoring and maintenance is documentation, and I'm just I can always just make a second proposal that kind of outlines some of this and try to create projects or just trying to wrap my head around it. I just want to make sure I'm doing my diligence just because some of these responsibilities are handed off to me by Larotis. And I just, don't want them to fall through the cracks.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's definitely a lot more of this maintenance stuff that falls on the dev guild steward as opposed to some of the other ones like growth. Like I don't think we even have the CRM put together. We don't have the sort of contacts or we just now have like the socials with LastPass and all that. space. I mean, yeah, we don't have either of these things. The CAD flow that we've been talking about for a while, or the game engine and community. I mean, we've got the drive and the D work and the roles and Discord, but yeah, it's the maintenance. I think we could be doing a lot more around there. So yeah, a lot of this monitoring, maintenance and all that will fall out more heavily on the dev guild steward than some of these other stewards. So yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely part of the tricky part of trying to come up with a standardized pay and roll around stewardship, because yeah, there is sort of that difference. I mean, yeah, I think at the end of the day, I would definitely support more like projects around this, like either minimize the work or kind of figure out a way where yeah, you can be, yeah, I guess like paid more basically for doing more work with this. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's hard to strike that balance. But
I
a
honestly
lot of it.
feel like a lot of. Oh, sorry, didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that a lot of it is going to I think come down to like, yeah, building projects to help minimize the sort of maintenance work, or like automate it as much as possible. And yeah, I think we could bring on more devs in general to support those like automation and just like those like workflows, stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I get it. It can definitely be like pretty annoying. Even stuff like I support on the domains, like just setting up the the like that it's like kind of annoying. It's just one off and takes time. Yeah, but
I think that, I mean, if we look at this list of these metrics, a lot of these things are already accomplished by the dev guild. Like, it would kind of be a waste of our time to make sure Colin does a test on GitHub training. I think like he's pretty much, that's a guarantee there. The provision of documentation and how-to manuals, like I think, yeah, that's a bit of work, but that could easily fall under this. Development of the core repositories is basically, as I understand it, like pretty much achieved. The reporting, reports posted on time. So those really are minimal. Like the my thing about these reports is that they just basically, the fact that they exist is the most important part, because it just means that you're maintaining responsive, like, accountability for those things. And the response time for ticketing, I think that's again, it's not even the amount that it takes to solve those issues, it's the amount that you like, the responsivity. I feel like, Colin, what you do is way more, like way more than what is here, and it's wouldn't be fair to the other, to you or the other stewards, to have it included in this, because either we're holding them to a high standard, or holding, I don't know. I think that it's ultimately, what I would suggest is that when it comes to these metrics, you as the dev guild steward can do essentially the minimum to meet these standards, and then create an additional project to really handle it, and get because yeah, it's, you've already gone above and beyond with these things, and it's there is no way that I could factor in how much work you do into this without throwing it all off balance.
Yeah, and I think certain quarters are going to be different than others when it comes to maintenance. Some quarters I might not do very much, and then others, we might have things we need to change. And yeah, maybe it's beneficial to just create kind of like a wrapper for this until we we can fully automate it, and then in like that wrapper proposal, just kind of yeah, it's like slowly make unit tests and things to help. But then in the meantime, while we don't have those automated systems, I'll just handle things as I usually would, or the dev steward would. Um,
A potential idea, and I mean, I don't mean to complicate this more, but it's just a thought that popped up. Is so I mean, we're talking about not including this proposal in the project system, which is sort of like that is the method that we have right now for kind of balancing out the workload that might be different on a person to person basis. And since we've sort of gotten rid of that, then yeah, we're kind of facing this issue of, historically the dev guild steward has had a lot more on their shoulders than other stewards. So um I don't mean to reinvent the wheel or anything, but this goes on for like an 8-month period. Uh, and there's 2K that goes to each steward. Maybe there's like another like 2K that is awarded through like a coordinate, or maybe not 2K, but like some set amount that is awarded at the end of the project system for like the stewardship, but is at a fixed amount, and it's just a coordinate that is done internal to the stewards, where people aren't rating the like. I don't know. I don't mean to introduce like a whole new mechanic or something. I'm just trying to think how to address that sort of balance. Yeah. Or we could just include this in the project system and do it on a quarterly basis instead of like, the 8 month thing that we've got going on here. But then yeah, then we'd have to subtract the MVPs to make it consistent with all of the other stuff. And yeah, I think we start to get our wires crossed on that too. So I don't know. Just trying to spitball a little bit.
Yeah, I'm honestly feeling with all those ifs and ors that maybe this is not the time to vote. Because if we still have some, it seems like there might still be some open, some ends that haven't been tied up.
Well, what if I mean, I don't know if this sounds potentially like unfair, and stop me if it does, but we could just say to like as a result of the differential in work that currently exists between dev guild stewards, where the dev guilds do have the dev guild steward does have a higher amount of maintenance, that their MVP is just going to be higher, um, which I don't know. May, maybe it seems unfair to just set that ahead of time, but that's that. I'm just trying to spitball other solutions because I do want this to go through like now, because I want this to run in line with the executive branch proposal, and then I also just kind of don't want to spin our wheels on this too much. All the energy that goes into refining and editing these documents is work that we're just spending on just talking to ourselves and not productive work. So I would kind of like to get to the bottom of this now in this meeting, rather than open up a can of worms that's going to be a prolonged discussion for like one more week, and then we uh yeah, just spend a lot of effort in editing the document, thinking about stuff, talking to each other.
Yeah.
Let's just get this done.
Well, I mean, I see no problem with it. I personally have no objection to it. By it, I mean increasing the dev guild budget.
Yeah. I mean, also, here's another idea too, is the executive branch has like some amount of basically like ad hoc payments and stuff that falls into there. And maybe there's going to be cases where, I don't know, just like that that budget can also be used to like reward people that are, you know, just going above and beyond in their post, you know, like hey, we've got the 2K ad hoc per month kind of budget, and if some of that is left over, we just go, hey, let's you know, send someone over to, you know, X steward or Y person, just because like they're doing an amazing job, or maybe we need to pull them in for something that's like, hey, we need someone to do this thing right now, and you know, I feel like that's going to be used too. So I don't know. There's another potential solution. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to spitball ways that we can, you know, get around this.
Using the executive branch budget does make sense because it is the type of, you know, essential core operational work that Colin does. Without it, you know, the rest of the community can't function. If our website goes down, right, or the dashboard goes down, like, yeah, that's an important part of our infrastructure.
For sure.
I'm actually would be more comfortable with that, with the additional money coming out of the executive branch than here. That feels a little cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And then, you know, yeah, I don't think it should be the same for like every quarter either, because I'm, you know, I'm thinking some quarters I'm gonna do more work than others. So yeah, either that or I would also be willing to just creating my own project every quarter until we fully automate it, and then just doing 0 MVP on that. The only, you know, catch there is that it passes.
I think maybe though you're discrediting yourself a bit in that there is value, even if you're not necessarily doing work at a specific moment. There's value in you just being available to do work if it comes up.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's worth something.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think there are ways to solve around this stuff through some of the other mechanisms that we have. Like, I think I do like the idea of like some amount of that ad hoc budget just going to like, you know, just like thank yous and like gratitude towards like people that are just, you know, doing an amazing job. Where it's like they're going maybe even above and beyond what's even showing up inside of the retroactive rewards project, stuff like that. I don't know. um i think we'll make it work, basically. You know, I think we all know Colin provides, you know, just a ton of value to our community, and yeah, I think yeah, I think that much is clear. But I think what Ryan is bringing up, which is that like there is going to be like having this sort of fixed just amount of payment, and might cause some resentment between different guild stewards if one is pulling in way more weight than the other without having the sort of like coordinate mechanism. But I guess yeah, it'll just be the job of the astronauts to hold people really accountable, or like, you know, the executive branch, or, you know, whoever, just like really like, you know, making sure that, hey, people are pulling their weight, and if they're not, then yeah. So I think that's a big component of this, is just that we'll need to ensure that people are really actually, you know, pushing their weight here. But yeah, do we want to put this up for vote? Should we do it? I mean, now almost 3 hours at this point we've been talking.
I'm comfortable if you want to put up a vote. There is one open question from Ryan. Well, not a question, but point that logistically we can only have a certain number of people using StreamYard. And I'm wondering, Brian, if it's possible for us to just you're also expressing concern that this might flood our YouTube with hour-long videos that probably people aren't interested in watching, which is fair. And I'm wondering if there's some way in StreamYard that we can simply download the videos and maybe just publish them in our notes and agenda channel or something like that instead. If it's a matter of only a certain number of people, then I think maybe that could be just sent to the executive branch, operations manager to make sure that these are recorded, or that if they're not going to be there to record it, that someone will. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, especially not on YouTube. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely don't I can see how it wouldn't want to be published on YouTube. I think if we were to post the videos in our notes and agenda channel, then maybe some people would watch them. I might if I miss some meetings, I think I would probably watch some of them.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to just store in an internal wiki type thing, or for people that miss them that want to catch something.
Or just for posterity, just so we can look back in 5 or 10 years and laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to say recording. Posting the agenda for the meeting. I just put recording with screen capture software, so it's generic. People can use whatever software they want, and yeah, as long as there's a video.
Cool. All right. Well, I threw up the proposal for vote. So yeah, should we do it?
Yeah. One second. Child member growth rate. I'm just gonna put the thing at the bottom, before, like we mentioned before. There.
Hey Mitch, I just make a quick calculation regarding the budget. 200 DAI per month. It means that 6,000 on per quarter. We have 4 dealers. It means that 24,000 or something. You put here is 22.
There should be 2 times.
Or there's other cost I forgot to calculate.
Times 8.
8 months.
64.
Okay. Okay.
It should be yeah, double what it's at.
Wait, are we coming back with the 2K instead of 1K for stewards?
Yeah, 2K is what we said. Yeah.
Okay. Could you guys hear what I talked earlier about the individual projects? Or
Yeah, sorry, I was talking, but I was muted. The 1K was a miscalculation on my part. I was trying to extrapolate on what the expected results could be from stewards in projects through the project system. I figured out I did the math wrong, but I figured out that on average it was about it evens out to about 800 DAI a month for the stewards that had proposals in. Basically, me, Colin, and Rod. But yeah, anyway, the figure is at 2,000 now.
All right. I think we're just missing 2 more voters.
Oh, sorry.
Missing you, Mitchie.
Yeah. Sorry.
No
We
worries,
can
no worries.
go into the right channel here. No.
His, pretty sure I know what you're voting, Mitchie. But
No.
okay, cool. So this will be going up to vote as well. All right.
We did it, guys.
We did it. Okay. Should we move on to the next thing on the agenda? We're almost there. I hope
No,
this
I think we need to talk about this for at least another half hour.
Yeah, no, thank you. Okay. Let's. All right. Yeah, let's go on to the next one. The MEXC response, basically. So this is in response to a notification that we got from MEXC. We paid them a whole, boatload of money to list our token, and now they're getting back to us saying that, hey, the total trading volume on the token is too low and this is a bad trading experience. So we're going to delist you. I am not happy about this, but yeah, we're pretty close to hitting the mark for the things that they want. So it's not like it's impossible for us to hit this. These are the 2 that we're missing, which is the total users holding value is 31K, and it should be 50K, and the market making requirement should hit at 50K, and we're currently at like 41 or something like that. Yeah, it's worth noting that we haven't changed anything with the count. The MEXC handles market making. We just put money into the account for them to do it. And yeah, so we're pretty close, but we've probably we just need to refill the account given that the Mooney price has gone down. And then also I think we should basically run a campaign to get more members to deposit into MEXC to get the total holding value back up to 50K. I mean, if our token price were to go up 20% or something like that, then I think we'd hit these requirements without any change. But given that we can't really rely on that, and that, yeah, I don't think that it'd be great for us to be delisted. I think that it would just be a big pain in the butt. We'd probably get more people from the more speculative side of the community jumping in saying, "Oh, you guys are, you guys suck," etc. I don't think that'd be fun for any of us. So yeah, the benefit is that it avoids delisting. The risks are that maybe we don't actually hit the 50K campaign goal, or that we don't execute on this proposal within the 30 days to deposit money into the market making account. Yeah, the idea here is just basically $10,000 worth of USDT and $10,000 worth of Mooney. Basically, just to have the pair of the 2 tokens. We'd send ETH over into the account and then have them exchange it into USDT. So yeah, two objectives here: deposit the money, notify the community. I did include a team table here. This one is really just executing on one transaction to send it over to the market making account. There probably will be some amount of sort of communication with the community to get people to put money into MEXC. At least in the United States, we're barred from using MEXC. So I mean, it's out of my hands in particular, but I think that we can get other people to put some amount into the account there. Yeah. Project timeline, just nice and simple. It's passed. We create the transaction. We execute. Send it over to the MEXC, and then yeah, I think that this proposal in tandem with maybe we're doing another AMA with the Chinese community, and I'll make sure to really reinforce and drive home the point that, hey, you guys in the CN community which can use MEXC, if you don't want to be delisted, which I think is something that pretty much all of them share in common, is that they would prefer us not to be delisted from MEXC, than to move some of the Mooney that you might have into other exchanges into MEXC. And I think that if communicated, it's within all of their interests to do that. So it should be doable. But yeah, here's the budget justifications. ETH Mooney, the total 5.29 ETH, 13.55 million Mooney. Oh, it's just another one. Here are the transactions to be executed, and I would really like for people in this meeting right now to approve this.
I
the
tried to sign earlier, but I don't have access to the doc.
Yeah, same.
My bad. There we go. Updated. I'll have to refresh the doc in order to see those changes. But yeah, sorry to just kind of steamroll right through this proposal, but I imagine that we're all pretty tired, so I just want to get this, through. All right, while you guys wait for that, I will put this into vote. Missing one more signer. Okay. And the vote is live. Missing 2 more here. I think we have 5, which is quorum, but I think we're just missing Manuel.
Oh, Manuel dropped off a
Oh,
few
did he?
minutes.
Okay, well, we still have quorum with 5, so we can close it. See. All right, cool. All right. Wow, we're 3 hours in. I think it's been a while since we've had a 3-hour long Senate meeting. But yeah, I guess that's that. Now we have open floor if people have other stuff they want to discuss or something else that
Yeah, maybe not for discussion, just info tomorrow. We have the CMA and the time is UTC +3, and yeah, I hope that not just Pablo, Mitch, and me, and to attend the meeting. I hope that if you guys have time, and yeah, also join the meeting. And also there's the spreadsheet there and questions from community, and spreadsheet 2 is the question from contributors. And I just take a look. There's 4 questions from community, and still no question from contributors. If you guys have questions, you can put there. And but I just want to mention one question from community is very just for me. I'm shocked. The first question that we will have the interview with the Brazil president or something. So it's from I don't know where's this information from. I just look this form.
that was Lucas.
Is it
He's,
Lucas that you, you will have the conversation with president of Brazil?
Yeah, I have a meeting with him in a couple of weeks.
Okay,
to
okay. Then understand. Okay. Then maybe tomorrow you can give this answer to the community.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's all from my side. Now it's 3 hours already.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting though.
all right then. Anything else before we close up? All right. Well, yeah. Thanks everyone for sticking with us the 3 hours, and I know, yeah, those are some pretty high impact proposals that we're discussing, and yeah, I do want to say that I hope that I hope that these go through, and then we can kind of put to rest a lot of these issues for 8 months, and just kind of I think Ryan has brought this up before that a seasonal sort of governance would really be nice, and I think that I agree. I hope that if these pass and we just get down to business, get down to building, and get down to making Moondao better. But yeah, thanks everyone.
Okay, see you everyone.